Okay, so we are continuing our T-chart from yesterday. I'm going to quickly throw the stuff that was up on the screen yesterday because it's all the same problem anyway. So input and output. We had a couple questions on our quiz today about that.
Yep.
How do we do on those first two questions?
100.
Yay, okay, so that's like the big, I guess, obstacle that you have to hurdle over on input and output comparative and absolute advantage questions, because if you miss that, then you kind of miss all of the next things. So remember, this chart with shoes and cloth and China and India, those numbers can mean different things. That could be hours it takes to make if it was input, or it could be like tons of shoes and tons of cloth they make if it was output. So if we remember from yesterday, if we are looking at this as an input problem, that's hours it takes to make shoes and cloth. And look how fast India is. 2 hours is less than 3. 5 hours is less than 12. And so India had an absolute advantage in shoes and cloth because India is faster. So India had an absolute advantage in both. Absolute advantage in both. India and India. Because they're faster. So this is just a review from yesterday. Of course, if this was an output problem, this is like tons they are making, pairs of shoes or bolts of cloth. Then it looks like China can produce more. 3 tons is more than 2 tons.
Can I steal Jay with?
Fine, Jay.
Bye, Jay.
No. Okay. 3 tons is more than 2 tons, and 12 tons is more than 5. Hey, Jacob. Who are you? Steven? Jacob. Whatever.
His code name for the
What Jacob is you?
And okay. China can produce more if this was output, so China has an absolute advantage both because they can make more. Okay, now everything is new. So I'm going to quickly just move this up here because this is going to get in the way. Ugh, whatever. You know what? That's gone.
It probably just stopped recording.
No, it didn't. No. It would make a sound. All right, so we need to figure out how to determine comparative advantage. Sticker. If anyone can tell me the definition of comparative advantage.
I said it first. Jacob.
Valerie.
What?
Well, that's not even our name, but
Val.
it's
Short for it.
whatever.
Valeria.
Lowest opportunity cost.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I was really interrupting you.
No, it's fine. A nation should produce whatever they have the least amount of opportunity cost.
Least opportunity cost, lowest opportunity cost. So when it comes to comparative advantage, we have to determine who has the lowest opportunity cost. Even if it's input or output, it doesn't matter. The definition of comparative advantage is lowest opportunity cost. So I'm going to write it on both columns because it's the same for both columns. So for comparative advantage, we're looking for lowest opportunity cost. For both input and output, lowest opportunity cost. Stop mumbling. Okay, lowest opportunity cost. All right, to determine opportunity cost, we have to do a little bit of math. The math is not hard, but there's a little saying for how to do it. So let's say if it's input. Let's just stick with input for now and do the whole problem for input, and then we're going to switch to output. So let's stick with input. Input. Those are hours. That's India's faster. 2 is less than 3 for shoes. And 5 is less than 12 for cloth. India is faster than both. But that doesn't mean that India should make both. You should make whatever you have the lowest opportunity cost in. So how do you do the math and figure it out? It becomes the numerator. That makes no sense right now. It'll make sense once you do it. But it becomes the numerator. If it's an input, it becomes a numerator. N. That'll goes together. It becomes a numerator, input. Input numerator, yes.
Interesting.
All right, so let's go back to the top. I can't see my table. You probably can. But I'm going to go back to the top to see what it means. Like, what is it? It becomes a numerator, input. All right, so you have numbers for China, India, shoes, and cloth. You're gonna pick. I always do like top left, and then I go like side to side. If I'm looking at China, 3 hours versus 12 hours, and then India's 2 hours versus 5. These are the numbers that go with China, 3 and 12. 2 and 5 go with India. So when I have my marker or pen or whatever, it becomes a numerator over the other thing China can do. It becomes a numerator over 12. It becomes a numerator over the other thing China can do. 12 over 3. It becomes a numerator 2 over 5. It becomes a numerator 5 over 2, and then we're going to simplify.
1/4.
1/4.
Give me a sticker.
No.
4.
4.
Sticker.
Nope.
2 fifths.
That's 2/5. Yeah. And
5 halves.
5.
okay, you like that? That's fine. I'm going to just write 2.5. Fine. What do you prefer?
5
halves.
Okay.
I don't need to
So much
fill in
better.
all these extra numbers.
But that's just.
The same. It's 2.5. Okay. So here's the thing.
Is it?
We're looking for lowest opportunity cost. Those fractions, that's opportunity cost. Okay, I did a really crappy job for third period explaining this, and I got all tongue-tied. So I'm going to talk slower. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do it this time. Okay. All right, here we go. That's hours. That's time, right? Input. If China makes a shoe, they lose 1/4 of an hour to make a shoe. If China makes cloth, they lose up 4 hours to make cloth. If India makes a shoe, they give up 2/5 of an hour. If India was to make cloth, they give up 5/2 of an hour. We're trying to figure out who has giving up the least. Who is giving up the least hours or at least gallons of paint or at least whatever, at least resources to make the thing. So we're looking for the product, we're looking at the shoe column and seeing who gives up the least. What's less, 1/4 or 2/5? Put it in decimal form. That's 1/4. It's 0.25 or 0.4. So it's 0.25, which is 1/4. Now let's figure out cloth. Cloth, we're comparing giving up 4 versus giving up 2.5. Well, 2.5 is less than 4. And so that determines who should do what. You look for who has the lowest opportunity cost in shoes. Oh, that's China. You look for who has the lowest opportunity cost for cloth. Oh, look, that's India.
I got a question.
So that is who should specialize in what, Molly?
You know how this is just determined because each place should only make one, whatever you're best at?
Yeah.
What if you're getting compared to somebody that's worse than you both? Then you're still going to be making 2.
No, that can't be mathematically possible. When you have a number, you can't be bigger than 1 and also bigger than its reciprocal. Does that make sense?
No, but that doesn't make sense. But saying that India has more hours than both, that makes sense. So China can still be better, like faster at 2.
No, you will never have someone have a comparative advantage in both.
Oh.
That's not, it's like not mathematically possible. Whatever numbers you have cannot beat each other and the reciprocals beat each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. I don't know enough math to explain why. I just know that can't be the case. Kylie.
What if they make the same?
Okay, great question. 2 years ago on the AP exam, the two numbers here were both 4. And it's like, what's less? 4 or 4? It's like, what? Nobody. Like the question is like, who has a comparative advantage? Well, if they're both the same number, then nobody has the comparative advantage. You're not going to say both because you can't have both people have an advantage over the other, but you can have neither people have an advantage over the other. And so it would be like, oh, China makes shoes, but then nobody has a comparative advantage in cloth, if that makes sense. Now, I had never seen that until like 2 years ago.
I know.
2 years ago, they put it on the AP test, and all the memes that came out after the AP test were like, "What's more, 4 or 4?" And it was fun. But that was the first time that I had ever seen that question ever. Like in all the textbooks and all the worksheets, it was the first time. It's like, "What's more, 4 or 4? Or what's less?" And people were like, "Eh." Okay, so here's that same table. So I don't want to say like you're never going to see that because apparently you will, maybe. So here is the same table, I just rewrote it in decimal form. 0.25 is less than 0.4. 2.5 is less than 4. And so that's the same math we did up top, I just brought it down here. So for comparative advantage, well, let's look at the shoe column. It was China, because they give up less. So China has a comparative advantage in shoes. For the cloth column, you see who's less. You see who has the lowest opportunity cost, and it looks like India does. So that is who should specialize in what. You're not going to have China, India make both. Specialization, we talked about how great specialization is yesterday. If you have cancer, you're going to go to an oncologist. You're not going to go to a general doctor. You're going to go to someone who specializes it because they're going to do it better. So that's why China should specialize in shoes and India should specialize in cloth and only produce that and then trade with each other. That's if it's an input problem. Okay, other questions?
So if they're both poor and neither have the advantage,
You would say neither.
then, yeah, so neither of them would be producing it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, neither of them would have an advantage in producing it, so they'll probably just end up both doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you can't help me and I can't help you, so let's just do each other
Just
like
do our
ourselves. Yeah, like you do you, I'll do me because we can't help each other. Yeah. Okay.
Stop. Makes sense.
I know that I said like do each other. I get that. That's not what I meant to say. All right. So that's input. Here's the thing. I will give you 50-50 of my questions will be input and some of them will be output. Like it'll be split in half. On the AP test though, if you honestly have no idea which one, oh gosh, is this input or is this output? Like 85% of their questions are output questions. Like I will give you both because you need to be prepared for both. But the majority that I've seen on AP have been output.
What if they like change it up this year and we're getting all input and we're getting scared because they're like we're doing this wrong?
Then by then you should be comfortable doing both because I will be giving you both. Yeah, but if you have no clue and it's a complete guess, best go with output. All right, so let's say that is output. I'm going to erase my numbers up here. And this is now tons. This is how many tons they're producing. Look how great China is. China's producing 3 tons and you can only do 2. China's producing 12 tons of cloth and you can only do 5. China is best at producing everything. That doesn't mean they should. Let's see who has a comparative advantage. Okay, so how do you do the math? I'm sure you could figure it out. It becomes the denominator. Okay, here's the thing though. I don't love that. I'm not a huge fan. I love input numerator. I love that. 2 ends. Oh, hello. 2 ends. That makes so much sense to me. N, but output denominator.
There's an O.
There is an O, but I had a student come up with this, and I really liked it. The other number goes over. The other number goes over. That makes you the denominator. The math is still the same, but look how many O's. Output, other, over. So many.
That's confusing.
Okay, or you can stick with it becomes the denominator.
Yeah, it becomes the denominator.
Yeah, that one was almost.
If it's not the numerator, then it's gotta be the denominator.
Or you
Yes.
just know the other ones, so that or you just know the input. So you know
You say,
the other.
Sure.
I know input's numerator, so I know denominator's output.
Or den.
Or all that.
Yes.
I don't know. Output, output.
Denominator.
I don't know. Okay, so it becomes the denominator. The other number comes over. Let's go to the top and try to figure it out. What's the other number? 12. The other number comes over. That's 4. What's the other number?
3.
I like that only one person
What if
answers.
there's more?
Uh,
3 items.
No.
No.
You're wrong.
No, because remember, it's like shoes, cloth.
Oh yeah.
So this is a PPF curve. You'd have to have a third axis to like do.
3D.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, 3D.
Yeah, just like,
What?
like boop boop.
Stop.
Wait, what?
Do it again.
You like that thing where it's like,
No. And you shoot you.
Like Pocahontas.
no,
Got
you're gonna like turn.
I don't know.
I hope the camera caught.
All right.
Copyright violation.
All right. The other number comes over 5 over 2. 5 halves. The other number comes over 2 over 5.
2.5.
Nope. Well, that was okay. Here's the thing. This is where I got all tongue-tied earlier today.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to do it better this time. I'm going to earn my degree today. Okay.
Oh, you're smiling at the camera.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were doing.
She's going crazy.
Don't mess up.
Thanks, Molly.
Just wants her name to
Say
say
welcome.
When you do one thing, you lose the opportunity to do the other thing. So when you make shoes, you give up cloth. When you make cloth, you give up shoes. Those fractions tells you if you were to make one shoe, how much cloth you're giving up, and if you're to make one cloth, how many shoes you're giving up. So I'm going to quickly erase the numbers. I'm going to put them back in a second, but I just want you to see that China can make 3 shoes or 12 cloths. So the cost of 3 shoes is 12 cloths. But those fractions tell you what the cost of 1 shoe is. So if in the time it takes them to make 3 shoes, it could have made 12 cloths. So how many cloths could they have made for 1 shoe? 4. That's what the number was that we just saw. So remember it was 12 over 3. So that was 4. But what unit is that? 4 what? That's 4 cloths. And so even though it's in the shoe column, that means 1 shoe in China, they lose 4 cloths for every 1 shoe they make. They lose the opportunity to make 4 cloths when they make 1 shoe. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I can't read all of your faces all at once, but put your thumbs up. Okay, I'm going to say something. As soon as I say something that makes sense.
Wait, didn't we see earlier that
they lost
I thought every time.
Oh wait,
Those
no, that
hours.
was 4 hours.
Yes. Okay, so, but the numbers were flipped.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Okay, I'm going to say something. I'm going to test it out, okay? Like I understand or I don't understand. Okay, recessions are bad. Inflations are bad too. GDP is C plus I plus G plus XN. There's 4 types of unemployment. Okay, unemployment's bad. Okay, hurry up. All right, now let's go back to this. When China decides to make 3 shoes, they could have made 12 cloths.
Yeah.
So if China decides to make 1 shoe, just 1, not 3, but just 1, they lose the opportunity to make 4 cloths. Okay, I'm going to put my thumb down because I'm going to write, you keep your thumbs here. India, if they were to make 1 shoe, output goes over, other number comes over, 5 over 2. When India makes 1 shoe, they lose the opportunity to make 2.5 cloths. Those are in units of cloths because that's what it costs. The other thing, second best choice. Okay? So who gives up the least amount of cloths to make a shoe? India. Let's circle it.
Even.
India should make shoes. Let's see, I wonder who, should make cloth. Okay, so the other number comes over, 3 over 12, so that's 1/4. And 1/4 of a what? Shoe.
Other number comes over 2 over 5
Yes, 2/5. Of a what?
of a shoe.
Okay, so I'm
To
going to
make
say
a
that
cloth.
whole spiel one more time. If China was to make not 12 cloths, I don't want to have to make 12 units every single time. I just want to see if I was to make 1 cloth, how many shoes could I have made in that same time? 1 cloth in the same time China makes 1 cloth, they could have been done with making 1/4 of a shoe in that same time. India, if they were to make 1 cloth, they give up the opportunity to have made 2/5 of a shoe every time they made that 1 cloth. So who's giving up the least amount of shoes to make cloth?
China.
China, because 1/4 is less than 2/5. And that is who has a comparative advantage in each. It's whoever has the lowest opportunity cost, and those fractions are opportunity cost. Do you see that if you had gotten input when it should have been output, all of your answers are the opposite of the right one?
Yep.
So if you're unsure, just put the same answer for both because you're guaranteed a 50.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, like
I don't
have two
know.
questions, one asking about input, one asking about output, but you don't know which
Oh.
one. You could do like a test of like doing the same answer.
No, but
That's
okay.
good. That's good.
Better to get a
They're
zero.
not going to do that. They're not going to get. It's not. Yeah, they're not going to have.
I'm talking about your test.
Oh, I would do this. I would
Oh,
I pick one or the other. It's going to either be input or output. I'm not going to have it be like input and then let's do the same information as if it was output. It's going to be one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the same information. China should make cloth. India should make shoes. And that is who has the comparative advantage, and that is who should specialize in each. They shouldn't make both. They need to make one. Okay. Well, depending on if it's input or output. If it's output, India gets shoes, only shoes. Make 100% of their resources towards shoes. China should make 100% of the resources towards cloth. And then trade.
Could you scroll way up?
Yes.
So like I forgot who mentioned it, but say for example India, instead of having two, it had like something higher than China, then India.
Then right here, you would stop right here because then you'd have China one, India the other. Then I know who should make what. Does that make sense? If you're like, this is only, you have to figure out comparative advantage. If you have one country that's great at everything. But if you have one country that's good at one thing and another country that's good at another, then that's how you should trade. I don't need to know opportunity cost. That you already know who's better. But when you have one country that's better, either I can make more or I can make it faster, then you have to be like, okay, you can't make it all. So let's figure out based on opportunity cost. Does that make sense? Yeah. So let's practice.
Yay.
Hooray.
Okay,
Done
so
taking notes?
there's
Raise the lamp.
so will the question ask like input opportunity cost or output opportunity?
This is going to ask you, they would say, okay, how a test question would look, it would say, let's pretend it's just output. Serena, look up here. It's just output. You done all the math, and it's like 4 versus 2.5, 2 or 0.25, and it would say, what does a shoe cost in India? Shoe, India, 2.5 cloths. Does that make sense? It's like, what does a shoe cost in India? A shoe in India,
The shoe cost.
yeah, cost in terms of opportunity cost.
But,
We're done learning
but that's
graph.
opportunity cost too, right?
What?
That's opportunity cost too. Over on my other.
Yes, but I specifically said the same. I could say, what is cloth cost in China? 0.25 of a shoe.
Oh, but if it asks us, like,
I don't know if we're talking, if I'm answering your question.
no, because why am I not looking at the other graph too?
Why am I not looking at the other graph?
What other graph?
You're only looking at the graph on the right. Like you're only looking at your table on the right.
Because this was an input problem.
But you said you only said opportunity cost, and both of them are opportunity.
Both of them are opportunity cost.
One of them's hours, one of them's per amount.
And that's why,
Okay, so if it asked the hours, I would do.
they're both opportunity cost. I lost an opportunity. It's not so simple as like, this cost me 4 shoes. It's like 0.25 hours I could have been making cloth.
I understand that, but it's like.
They're both opportunity costs.
But if the
I
question
am
asks
losing opportunity.
like time versus, is that what it's gonna ask?
No, it'll say opportunity cost. It'll
They
say,
both are opportunity.
yes.
One's resources, one's.
No, it'll never say input or output.
You have to assume.
But how do I don't know which one. How do I know which one?
Because at the very top of the table, like, look at this. It says Henry and John.
Date.
It says this is the number of clock per day.
20.
And that should tell you if that's input or output.
Hot.
Caught per day. The number of the table is how many they are catching in a day.
That's my output.
Come on, guys, let's just all work
Yes.
together.
So now you know.
That's okay.
Come on,
Ready.
Ben,
Yes.
come on, you're gonna come work with us?
Okay, hold on. We're gonna do number 1 together. Calm your horses.
We were gonna do it together anyways, Mrs. Taylor.
I am offended.
This is.
Alright.
It's the 21st, right?
Oh, no.
What is 2020?
Yeah, it's kind of second.
Right.
This is
Okay.
Can you have what I put the date?
Yeah,
You're
very
flirting.
good.
Or that is the, that's the date.
There will be a country that has absolute advantage.
Oh, that's that one.
But
Dave.
Yeah. Yes, like Henry or John can be really great at everything. But when it comes to comparative
Number
advantage,
clock per day.
one person has one day, another
I'll
person
cover
has
it.
another. Okay, let's do the first one together.
Okay.
Before you do anything, you have to determine input or output. Otherwise, you don't even know what those numbers mean. And you're like, am I looking for small, big? I have no idea. So this is Henry and John catching deer and antelope. This is the number that they can catch in a day. So is this going to be, is this resources or is this production?
That's production.
That's production. This is producing catches in a day. So which one? Input or output?
Output.
It's output. Okay. So for each of these, you have to determine absolute advantage of deer, absolute advantage of antelope, comparative advantage of deer, and comparative advantage in antelope.
Okay, Miss Taylor, can I have a new packet? I just wrote output
I know.
large because I thought that was the only question that was asked.
Okay. That's why I said we're going to do it together, and you're all like, don't worry. Keep telling you. Well, you can do that. I like to write at the table, but you can also do that.
That's the plan.
You haven't, no.
About the
You're doing math and not answering the question.
output.
Yeah, hold on.
Thanks.
Hey, dear.
Thanks, Miss Taylor. You're
I mean,
welcome.
John has the absolute value, whatever.
Okay, so who has an absolute advantage in deer?
John.
How do you know that?
It's huge.
He produces more. He is 24 versus 4. So when it comes to deer, it's John. What about antelope? John, have you done any math yet?
No.
No, you do not do any math, no fractions at all until you do absolute advantage. Then you comparative advantage. That's when you do the math. And well, how do you do the math if it's output?
You put it on numerator.
Other
one.
Other one comes over.
Yeah.
It becomes a denominator. Other one comes over. Okay, so what's the other number for Henry?
6/4.
Yeah, 6/4. Let's simplify that. 3/2. And then 4/6, that's 2/3. Other number comes over, 12/24, which is a half. And 24/12, which is 2.
That's what I got.
Okay, but remember, for comparative advantage,
You want the less.
always, doesn't matter if it's input or output, you always, that's the definition of comparative advantage. You always want the lowest opportunity cost, lowest number. Hannah, stop taking pictures of deer. Which one is less, 3 halves or a half? John.
Another one's Henry.
Oh, okay, yes, thank you. Okay, I do want you to circle the lowest number. I know that seems picky, but I don't want you to eyeball it and draw an answer. I want you to draw a circle in the smallest number, because the next step that we do tomorrow, the circles will really help you out if you have them circled already. So right now, 3 halves versus half. Well, half of what? What is that units of?
Antelope.
That's an antelope. So Henry, if he was to catch a deer, he could have caught 3.5 or 2. Sorry, 2.
1.5.
1.5.
1.5 or 3 halves of an antelope in that time. John would have only caught half of an antelope in that time. He's losing less antelope per deer catch, which is why he should catch deer.
Boom.
So do we have to write out all of that?
I would. And for antelope, because that's what you have to write
And
that.
this one is denominator.
Which one's less, 2/3 or 2? 2/3. And so Henry is going to catch antelope, and John is going to catch deer. So
Doing with
there are 4 parts of the question that you have to answer. Sorry, 5 technically. Input or output, and then absolute advantage for each, comparative advantage for each. Find a friend or work by yourself. You've got 3 more to do.
Days to produce. That's
Hours. Days to produce.
Days to hours, yeah. So,
Hey, if it is an input problem for absolute advantage,
You want
numerator.
the lower number.
because that's 8 days versus 15 days, who's better?
8.
ABC.
8. Don't just assume bigger is better. If we're talking about resources, fewer is better. 8 ABCs.
Pick the bigger number. The smaller
But
Output versus input.
this is for output, this is for input would want less abilities to produce something.
Yeah, but for output, why do we just do the smaller number?
No, for comparative advantage, we did.
Comparative advantage, you always do.
Here you pick the biggest number, because look, 24 versus 12. But here, you're gonna always pick the smallest numbers in your output, because you're figuring out what you're losing.
I want to have a less than a loss.
Yes.
And just, I'll just
Hold on
cry.
one second, I want a positive.
I'll just cry tomorrow the next day. It's really not. Don't worry, don't worry.
I never do.
Cars. We make more cars.
Okay, I am looking for something. I'm gonna put this and I'm going to.
A, B, C.